Hi again, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Shane. I run the events over at 10 Capital Network. As you can see on my name tag there, we have another great 10 Capital quick pitch for you today. We do these monthly, and we have three great companies presenting throughout the session. If you have any questions in the audience, feel free to drop those in our chat box or in our Q&A box, whatever works best for you, and we'll get to those when we can, or if we can. If not, we'll answer any questions offline in email. We'll also be running polls throughout the session for each of our companies, so feel free to hit whatever option speaks to you on those when those come out. With that, I'm going to pass it off to our CEO, Hall Martin, to get things started off.
Great. Thanks, Shane. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And we have a great panel for you, as well as a great list of startups that are raising funding. If you have questions, go and put them in the chat box there, and we'll do our best to answer them. But first, let's introduce Jason Jacobsohn, Propellant Ventures. Jason, can you tell us more about yourself and your fund?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Hall. My name is Jason Jacobsohn, managing partner of Propellant Ventures. We are a seed stage venture capital fund that invests in B2B tech-enabled businesses located primarily in the Midwest region of the U.S. We come in and fill the funding gap, generally after an angel round, but before a larger institutional seed round. And so we've made investments across industries, ed tech, fintech, supply chain, future work, and prop tech. And personally, I've been involved for over 20 years in the entrepreneur investment community here in the Midwest, and I'm based in the Chicago area. So glad to be here.
Great. Thanks, Jason. And we also have with us Jay Casas of Silicon Beach Investment Group. Jay, can you tell us more about yourself and your fund?
Yeah, certainly. So we're a pre-seed and seed stage fund based in Los Angeles. While we consider ourselves generalist investors, we do have preferences. We prefer software and technology companies. We also prefer B2B SaaS companies, but the generalist investor label is actually just a genuine reflection of the current portfolio, which we have non-software, non-B2B SaaS companies. What we look for from an investment perspective are founders that are uniquely qualified to build their business, founders that can articulate unique market insights, and founders that built uniquely differentiated solutions or uniquely differentiated products. So uniqueness is kind of something that we're on the hunt for.
Great. Well, let's bring up our first presenter today. We have JB Sigmund of Casada. JB, if you could, let's go ahead and show your slides and let's kick off. Each one will have 15 minutes to pitch and answer their questions, and then we'll move on to the next one. We'll try to get those that are posted in the chat box, and then we'll make the recording available to everyone afterwards. With that, JB, go ahead and kick off.
Fantastic. So thanks, Hall, for the opportunity to present here today. I'm JB Sigmund. I'm the CFO of Casada, and I'm excited to introduce you to basically what we think is a really innovative solution to the attainable housing shortage facing America today. So Casada is a high-growth build-to-rent multifamily developer. We're focused on delivering high-quality micro home communities at an affordable price point. And that's key because very few real estate developers are focused on providing new attainable housing, even though it represents a massive under-addressed opportunity across this country. This is at least in part because most developers can't really figure out how to make the project level economics pencil while keeping rents at affordable level for tenants who are in kind of a middle income bracket of 80% of median income to about 100% of median income. Here at Casada, we've cracked the code for developing high quality, differentiated, attainable housing communities. So I mentioned a little bit about the problem, and the issue really is that decades of chronic underbuilding and lagging construction sector productivity have left over 20 million households in the US cost burdened. That means that they spend more than 30% of their income on rent plus utilities. I mean, I'll let that sink in for a second. 20 million households that can't really afford rent where they're sitting at right now. And at the current pace of development in this country, it's going to take more than 20 years to close the 5.5 million unit housing gap that's driving up the cost of housing. In order for people to basically stay afloat and afford their rent, many tenants are left paying for underwhelming housing options like the things that you see on the left-hand side of the page. So Casada, we think we've created the solution to this. Our communities empower low to moderate income families to lease high quality micro single family residences at rents that are in line with the type, basically in line with the type of tired and worn out Class B and C apartments shown on the prior slide, but you get something much, much nicer. So Casada is developing environmentally conscious communities, and each unit serves as its own single-family dwelling with no shared walls. Our units feature both indoor and outdoor living areas, and the concept's really akin to what people are familiar with to be like a typical multi-family vertical apartment, where everybody's stacked on top of each other and you've got neighbors on either side and above and below you. But the Casada concept, while it's managed like an apartment complex, our units are fully standalone. Everyone has their own unit with no shared walls whatsoever, and has their own indoor and outdoor living areas and access to really, really high-end common area amenities like, great pool, fitness center, co-working spaces, jogging trails, dog parks, things along those lines. And we've laid the groundwork for rapid growth using partnerships with nationwide manufacturers. And that's really key to how we're able to build this business. And we're able to reduce project costs by about 20% versus a typical apartment complex, to build a typical apartment complex. And the timelines for us to deliver our communities is about half of what it takes to build a typical apartment. Our homes range from about 400 to 1,000 square feet in 1, 2, and 3 bedroom modules. The units are tech enabled, they're modern, they're eco-friendly, and they have highly functional layouts. So they're built with energy efficient materials and have high-end finishes. And we've seamlessly integrated technology into all of our units, including in the development of a proprietary dedicated smart app, basically a mobile app where residents can manage all of their smart home devices and control, pay rent, all sorts of things along those lines. We also provide an enhanced resident experience where, besides the premium amenities that I mentioned earlier with fitness centers and co-working spaces, we also provide a ton of community building events, such as when we have event planning for on-site concerts, fitness classes, volunteer opportunities, and even more things than just that. Now, the key competitive advantage of what Casada is doing here is that our basic design here fits midway between people are used to single family rentals and multifamily like apartment complexes. But unlike traditional apartment complexes, our units are completely standalone. And so tenants tend to love that level of independence that they typically would only find in a much more expensive single family home. And our communities include physical amenities, such as naturally landscaped buffer areas, modern co-working spaces, fitness centers, pools, green spaces, community gardens. And so our tenants end up paying rents that are very similar to the type of Class B apartments that you see on the right-hand side of the page here, but they get a much, much, much better quality of life. Now, we already have a ton of traction here at Casada. We've launched our first community in South Austin. It was 66 units, and we built it in under 12 months. It typically takes 24 to 36 months to build an apartment complex. So we, built our first community in under half the timeline it takes to build one normally. And the community has been a resounding success. It opened up 82% pre-leased, stabilized within 90 days, 100% occupied within 120 days. That means we leased up about 4 times faster than typical developments. And we nailed our target demographic, and our median salary of our tenants is about 80% of the median income in the Austin metro area. And we've already, primed for growth. We've got an active pipeline for 3 more communities in Texas that are going to yield about 600 more units in the next 18 months. And we're expanding beyond Texas nationwide as well, and have, development partners around the country. We think that the market demand for our product is massive, and we are not going to run out of runway anytime soon. We've got the right team in place. Our CEO, Aaron Levy, is a multi-generational real estate developer with over 15 years experience in Austin, Texas. Our COO, Noah Pollack, has over 30 years experience leading high growth organizations. And I'm JB Sigmund, I'm the CFO, and I've got over 15 years capital markets and real estate experience with firms all over Wall Street. And we're currently looking to close out a $2 million Series A round, and we've already raised about $700,000 of it. This fundraise will alleviate Casada's near-term cash flow gap and accelerate the growth of our pipeline. Now, the key thing, I'll run through this really fast. I know I'm running out of time here, and I want to leave a lot of time for questions, is that basically what Casada is we are the top of the house. And each Casada community is a separate special purpose vehicle, with Casada serving as the developer, the operator, and the general partner of each community. And so we invest into each project and raise third-party limited capital and and construction loans for the building of every one of our communities. So stepping back and say, okay, what is a typical return to Casada on a project that we undertake? A typical project for Casada is about 200 units, and it costs about $200,000 per unit. So every project is about $40 million. We will go out and get leverage anywhere from 70 to 75% leverage, which means that we end up with about $10 million to $12 million of total equity required per project that we build. And Casada puts up, as the general partner, 10% of that equity. So we'll put a little over $1 million into every project that we build. During construction, we earn what are called developer fees that are 4% of the total project cost, and over about the 12 to 18 month construction timeline. So we'll put $1 million into the project and earn $1.6 million back within 18 months. And once the project is fully leased up, we charge management fees and licensing fees, and that's 4% of revenue. So that is additional cash flow to Casada while we are operating the project. And the biggest value to Casada is the carried interest that we get. Anybody who's done private equity or venture capital is probably familiar with the concept of carried interest. Basically, what that is in order to incentivize Casada to maximize returns on every one of our communities, there's a profit sharing waterfall that's put in place between Casada and the other limited partners that are investing in each community. And this profit sharing arrangement provides Casada with an outsized return if the project hits certain return targets. This is called Casada's carried interest. So our carried interest in each project ends up meaning that we will end up owning between 20 and 30% of the total distributions from the sale of a community, even though we only put in 10% of the equity. So if you put all of those pieces together, the developer fees that more than pay back the amount of money that we put into it, plus the royalty fees and asset management fees we earn on a project throughout its life, and then ultimately the carried interest we earn when the project's sold, on any given project Casada undertakes, we will make somewhere between a 7 and a 10 times return on every project we build. And our pipeline is such that we are looking to break ground on 4 projects a year. That will enable us to build out $1 billion real estate portfolio within the next 5 years. And so we will be looking to exit the Casada business and sell the entire portfolio to a private equity, real estate private equity investor in a roughly 5-year timeline. So what questions can I answer from the panelists or from the rest of the crowd here?
Great, JB. Thanks. Jason, let's have you take the first question.
Great. Thank you, JB, for that presentation. Yeah, just curious on the repurposed land. I mean, where do you find this land? How readily available is this land? What types of neighborhoods or locations? I know you're creating a new neighborhood, but where does the land come from and how much do you need typically?
Yeah, our communities typically are anywhere from 15 to 30 acres is really where our sweet spot is. We're call it 10 to 12 units per acre. And so in order to get that type of relatively low density, land for multifamily, product, we are kind of on the outskirts of town, not in the exurbs, like way out. We're just kind of on the ends of suburbia where, we see a path of growth. We want to be within 15 to 20 minutes of some sort of job centers, where people can commute to work. That doesn't necessarily mean downtown in any given city, but we want to be able to actually have people have a good path, into job centers. We want to be, again, a few miles away from regional or nationally recognized grocery chains. Does that kind of, answer where we're looking to build?
Is this vacant land typically?
It is. It's typically greenfield developments.
Okay.
We have the ability to go buy, old underperforming manufactured housing communities and redevelop those. There's just a lot of investors going after those right now. On the private equity side. And so there's less competition for land if we're going out and doing greenfield development.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Great, thanks. And Jake, what's your question?
So what's the secret sauce to a more affordable build and something that you can do? And I think you said like half the time, right? What have you figured out that maybe some other developers haven't, other than the actual style of the build, separated walls, right? No connected wall type of thing.
Yeah, so the real key here of what we're doing, and you kind of see it here on the top left page side of the page, and actually you can probably see it better at the very first page here. So every one of our units is manufactured offsite. We have partnerships with some of the largest manufactured home companies and modular home companies in the country, including Clayton Homes, Champion, Box Prefab, Involve, a number of others. So what we do is we partner with manufacturers who will, agree to basically build out to our specs, our floor plans, our designs in their manufacturing facilities that allow us to be putting in all of the horizontal infrastructure, all of the roads, all the utilities, electrical, and build the amenity centers at the same time the units are actually being produced offsite. We're then able to take units and actually install them on site up to 8 a day. So that ends up compressing the timeline of our construction way, way, way down versus a typical community.
So prefab homes, got it. So then you mentioned maybe 3 or 4 different financing routes, right? There's leverage, there's raising from the LPs, and then there's obviously raising this round. Where does the money raised from this round come in? It sounds like it's going directly to Casada rather than the single projects, but how does that all kind of play itself?
Yes, exactly. So the way to kind of think about it is we're in this picture, we're raising funds for this entity on the top right of the page here, which is Casada Corp. Casada Corp sits on top, and Casada Corp is the general partner that invests into every project that we do and receives fee streams up from those projects for developer fees, royalty, and asset management fees, and then has a carried interest as the general partner in each one of those projects. Separately, when we go to launch a project, we will raise limited partner and construction financing at the project level. And the best way to think about that is that a typical, limited partner investment into a real estate project, you're targeting a 15 to 20% return on your investment. Investing,
is the investor, the venture investor, the VC, are they buying equity into an individual product?
No, they're investing in the top of the house that then invests into multiple deals.
Okay, understood, got it.
And because Casada is the general partner and sits in that position of earning carried interest on every deal, you are then sitting in a position to be able to earn a much further outsized return than if you were just a limited partner investment into an individual transaction. Yeah. Casada Corp targets making a 7 to 10 times return on every deal we do. Yeah. If you were just a limited partner investor into one project, you'd be looking at like a 2x IRR, 2x multiple, or a 20% IRR over 5 years, as opposed to a 50% IRR and a 7 times, multiple over that same time period.
Yeah, understood. Thank you.
Great. We have a question from the audience. How is your model different from other developers? And how do you react to people who say nothing new here?
So I would say, as far as what we're doing from different other developers are capitalized the same way. We're not doing something different from the structure of our organization. That is not fundamentally different. We're not trying to recreate the wheel there. Where we're recreating the wheel and doing something truly unique and different is in the way we are actually building our communities and bringing something that's innovative to market. Most of the time, a retail level investor doesn't have an opportunity to invest at the general partner level and get those general partner returns. You're typically looking out and doing some sort of, crowd-funded deal where you're making that limited partner investment as opposed to a general partner investment. Those general partner investments that have those really high returns are typically only going to be for the people who really stood up the entity. And so this is a unique opportunity to be able to invest at the top of the house.
Great. And the last question from the audience is, manufactured housing has not been a solution in Texas in the past. How will this be so?
So I'm not sure what we would say has not been a solution in Texas. There are manufactured housing communities in Texas. The difference here is most manufactured housing communities are lower quality. We're bringing something much, much higher quality to market. and people have to go buy their own units. We are bringing a rental product to market that is a solution that allows people to have a much better quality of life, have much better, units than what they would if they were just going to go rent an apartment complex. Our units are not your typical manufactured homes. They are much, much higher end than that.
Great. Well, that brings us to the end of our time and end of our questions. Thanks, JB, for that great presentation. And next up is going to be James Bilodeau of Prefix. James, if you could launch your slides, kick off whenever you're ready.
Great. Nice to meet everyone. Hall, Shane, thanks for inviting me. Perfect. James Bilodeau, founder and CEO of Prefix. Thrilled to be here. Always meet interesting folks through 10 Capital. To put it simply, Prefix eliminates the hassle of home maintenance and saves our homeowners between 30 and 50% off home maintenance costs. I'm not going to bury the lead, so I'll start with a quick summary of where we are and why we're moving forward with our next round. We've been demonstrating 10% month-on-month growth. We're now at 6.7 million in annualized revenue. We've launched multiple new metro areas across the last year, all while maintaining an NPS of around 80. We're currently at 84 in our last trailing 30-day NPS, well above anything we've seen in the home services space, let alone most industries. We've shown how we can expand into new high margin services I'll describe in a bit. And then for the last 9 months or so, we've been able to acquire customers at a CAC of essentially zero with strategic distribution partnerships with Fortune 100 companies. Average homeowner spends $3,000 30 hours a year on what's fundamentally a broken process of unreturned calls, service windows, exploitive pricing, and general confusion on what ongoing maintenance is needed in the home. It's one of the biggest consumer problems there is, yet until now, there hasn't been much real innovation addressing the actual problem. With Prefix, you get your own dedicated home manager. We hire primarily military veterans with impeccable records and a strong work ethic. If anything breaks, you just call, text, or email. Your home manager takes care of it, usually for just a small copay. So no online searches, no contractor blind dates, and no wondering if you've gotten the best possible price. Your home manager also comes to your home, performs a 30-point preventive maintenance twice a year. And by 30 points, I mean clean your AC condenser and condensate line, change your air and water filters, flush the sediment out of your water heater, clean the lint out of your dryer outtake, sanitize your washer and dishwasher with a natural cleansing agent, change all the batteries and your smoke alarms, and I'll stop there as I look at the timer. But for the minority of things that your home manager can't do, you get one of our vetted contractors that we manage all the way through to completion. You get low negotiated rates with no markup. We've created a completely new model of home care by focusing on 3 main pillars. First, what I call our human code, or the repeatable processes around hiring, training, and motivating our full-time employees. We've gotten really good at this and directly take advantage of the ongoing shortage of skilled tradespeople afflicting most incumbents in this industry. We hire full-time employees after an extensive vetting process that we've gotten really good at. They're primarily military veterans who've shown excellence during their period of service. We look for those psychographic traits we know will delight customers, and then place them in a rigorous training program spanning the classroom, custom-built training facility, and in-field training with experienced home managers. Finally, culture can't be underestimated or shortcutted in a startup. Ours is supportive, team-based, but still fosters a sort of entrepreneurial drive and rigor at the last mile. All of our employees have an ownership stake in the company, and we look for the kind of behavior that implies. Second, our technology platform goes hand in glove with our unique operating model. From the customer's perspective, we're super easy to communicate with. We have the equivalent of Amazon one-click to enroll in the service. Homeowners are able to see all the work we've done, even how much money we've saved them in their home health report. The data we collect means we're almost predictive. We are predictive in the way we're able to come and fix things right the first time. And this data has a number of other uses we'll discuss in just a minute. AI, we've already trained our machine learning, natural language program to be already to 85% accuracy. We use that to enhance the efficiency of our agents. Third, it's a way in which we create operational density, provides a major competitive advantage over any incumbent in this space. We now have over 1/3 of total homes in some of the neighborhoods in which we operate. We know a few other products, particularly in this sector, which have this kind of addressability. We've now rolled out across greater Austin, and I mean that in the Jason sense, like the Chicagoland sense, San Antonio, Houston, and most recently, Dallas. We're going to be launching in some other regions shortly with some of our partners. By contrast, existing competition in this space solves none of the problems we just mentioned. There are two archetypal models that have tried, which are representative of most competition in this space. They're marketplaces, which are funded by contractors. They may lower search costs, but really address none of the problems we just mentioned. They use disparate independent contractors, can't control for quality, or create trusted relationships with homeowners. And then there are home warranties, which are really just bad insurance at odds with their customers' best interests. They make their margins also by using 1099 contractors that are frequently willing to be undercompensated or by denying claims to customers for various reasons. Either way, the customer usually loses. Neither model creates trusted relationships or the ability to monetize them. So we solve one of the biggest consumer problems there is. But home maintenance isn't the extent of our business model any more than books was that of Amazon's. By doing the work of solving the broken home maintenance process, we fund the creation of an operating system for the home and trusted, sticky relationships with homeowners. This enables us to offer a number of other higher margin services, both to consumers and to industry partners. In terms of direct to consumer services, we've started with margins of 36% through a monthly subscription and co-payments. We've been steadily increasing these margins as we continue to offer other higher margin services. Last year, we stood up our own full service HVAC installation company, sort of what we call an Amazon basics of HVAC to support our core home manager primary care service. It's very high margin, utilize much of our existing infrastructure, and we're able to deliver it for far less than incumbent companies. We continue to expand into other services. The preventive maintenance of our existing service lowers underwriting risk for insurers. We also provide a highly cost-effective way for them to install and maintain telematics like leak detection in the home. We'll be launching solar lead gen and maintenance next in this increasingly energy-constrained market. We solved the last mile problem that's constrained solar adoption to date, particularly here in Texas. And then there are a number of other higher margin services, some of which I've listed here, that will now be rolling out later this year. Core home maintenance market alone in the US is worth $20 billion. Some of the adjacent markets into which we're expanding represent even larger opportunities. A relentless focus on solving the real customer problem in this space helps us realize an additional and important part of our business model. The same data that helps us serve our individual customers so well, highly valuable in aggregate to both consumers and industry partners. The data we already collect enables us to determine cost to own and market share for all appliances systems in the home. Companies like Consumer Reports, JD Power, they make hundreds of millions of dollars from initial quality assessments, and our data is better. And those are just a couple examples. We have a number of others in our product roadmap. As we hit new records of growth, we've not sacrificed customer experience in the least. We have near perfect reviews on Google, maintained an NPS of more than 80, again, and currently at 84, and very low customer churn. We achieved Series A metrics with our own direct-to-consumer marketing playbook. But over the last 9 months, we've entered a new phase of growth. We've partnered with USAA, one of the largest and most well-respected insurers in the country, and NRG, a major public utility with millions of customers in Texas alone. By distributing us, they instantly get us to profitability in any territory where we launch at almost no acquisition cost. We're wrapping up a 5,000-person pilot with USAA. I just spent the day down in San Antonio. We're mapping out our commercial launch in Texas and other regions. Importantly, we're highly strategic for both of these partners. This isn't just a nice to have or an add-on in some ancillary marketplace. For an insurer, we can lower underwriting costs by as much as 20%. For utility, we can help them provide other energy-related services to escape the commodity trap of deregulated energy. They've both paid these large-scale pilots themselves, which in themselves have been getting us to Series B metrics. And those are just two strategic partners we started with at an early stage. We've already been working with national real estate brokerages and discussions with home improvement retailers, builders, private equity firms with large real estate holdings. Many of these strategic partners could also eventually be acquirers once we've achieved a bit more scale. and realize the value we'd like for our investors. I describe our model as high growth with a margin of safety. In still a somewhat uncertain economic environment, our sector has shown very low correlation to economic recessions. The recently passed Inflation Reduction Act provides for up to $14,000 per customer in energy saving retrofits to homes, $7,500 for the purchases of electronic vehicles, corresponding need for chargers, and 30% off the cost of rooftop solar, all of which we believe is highly suited to our relationship-based, trusted advisory model that we've now brought into a highly replicable phase. To paraphrase Ray Dalio, we've got 3 uncorrelated paths to growth. High addressability within existing metro markets. We continue to go deeper in the markets that we're in. The ability to launch new metro areas quickly. We got Dallas up to profitability in 6 months. And then these new services and revenue streams that I mentioned. And that's before we get into the data-related services I mentioned previously. We've got a great team. It's not a founder-led company, it's a team-led one. And we didn't hire just for logos. Instead, we ensured everyone, each member of the leadership team, brings specialized experience well-aligned to driving growth through the early stages of category creation, where processes need to be defined and replicability established. Advisors and directors, we also have Julia Cheek, founder and CEO of Everlywell, one of the most successful direct-to-consumer startups to emerge out of Austin in a long while. Rob Chesney up in Chicagoland, he was CEO of Trunk Club, Senior VP at eBay. Jay Steinfeld was an advisor. He's now joining our board as independent director, founder and CEO of Blinds.com, one of the largest acquisitions by Home Depot, where he then 4X'd the company as a very successful acquisition. And then in terms of other successful operator investors, we've got the Uber Syndicate, Jim Ryan, the former CEO of Grainger, Jim Finnegan, one of the co-founders of SoFi, Dean Draco, the founder of Barracuda Networks and now Eagle Eye Networks. To wrap it up, we're about to lean fully into a Series A raise. As we do, we're just topping up a C+ round, which is well oversubscribed. It's an 18 million post, around 12 million. And this is just to make sure we have plenty of runway to continue accelerate growth. We're going to be launching in Fort Worth, possibly some other regions as we close the A round. So uses of our capital as we close our A and as we expand into that through this end of the C+, expanding our data and developer team, deploying more working capital to rapidly roll out this territory model, and then adding resources to develop and launch new partnerships in the verticals we mentioned. We're doing very well with just 2 partners, and we've got plenty more that are in the pipeline. With that, I'll wrap it up and welcome any questions.
Great, James. Thanks for the presentation. Jake, you had the first question.
Yeah, certainly. So first of all, from the outside looking in, looks like you built a very impressive team. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I guess my question on revenue and traction. So it sounds like you're making money through monthly subscriptions and even co-pays. Can you share where you're at revenue-wise? And then I have a second question regarding growth.
Sure. 6.7 million in annualized revenue, and then 3 sources of revenue right now. First, subscription, and our margin is that gets us to that 36%. Our co-pays are designed to be, we don't make excessive amounts on them, but we don't lose money. It creates an almost capitation-like model that you see in health, you should see in healthcare. We're paid to keep the house well. But we don't have the incentives to overcharge like many traditional contractors do. And third is specialty services. And so you can think of this model very much like an Amazon Prime model, where we've earned the trust of the customer, or even USAA, which started with just a good claims experience. We've earned the trust so we can monetize in any number of ways, HVAC being the first, solar coming up next, and then you saw that whole product roadmap that we're executing on.
Got it. And so roughly, broad numbers speaking, across how many homeowners?
7,000.
Great job. Okay. And then growth, I'd just love to see what growth has been like. You can answer month over month, quarter, whatever you feel tells the story the best, but roughly speaking, what has that looked like?
Sure. So we've doubled since the beginning of the year.
Fantastic. Amazing stuff.
Thanks.
Cool. I'll pass it to Jason. Thank you.
Jason, your question?
Yeah, great. Thanks, James. Congrats on the progress. So I'm just trying to understand, you don't have to go in a lot of detail, but the differentiator, I mean, there's a lot of services out there, whether it's contractors or full-time. There's a company in Chicago called Fixer that is full-time. They're more handyman services. This, to me, hints on that a little bit, but it's more focused, I guess, on certain aspects of the home and the maintenance. But in my mind, you're still competing with some of those others. And so how do you differentiate, or how do you package it where, your customers understand it? Because they're paying a regular fee versus as needed. So maybe it's like a traditional handyman service where you're automating it maybe a little bit more, but I'm just curious, however you want to answer that.
Sure. So if you Fixer's coming from sort of a Grubhub.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Mike Evans.
Yeah. And we sort of do what we know. It's sort of a dispatch model. It's not relationship based. And the whole idea that this category we've created is relationship based. And so if we had to distill down the feeling that our homeowners get, it's you've got a gal or guy. And that person is not just a handyman. They're a primary care physician for your home. They'll do all appliance repair, basic plumbing, HVAC, electrical. And the price point and the utility of that person working in these dense territories, like all works together. So think of the full business model. You've got a person that they're much cheaper, so you don't have to shop around, and they can fix most things. And then when we do have to, for the 15% where we do have to go to an external contractor, we know what it should cost. So we manage it and pass it through at cost. So you don't have to think about any of this. And then the monthly subscription, it's the equivalent of like those premium HVAC plans you get. But because the operating model is so different and so much more efficient, because of the data we have, the density we've created, we are able to make a margin where others don't. And so the preventive maintenance is included in that, and we still make money. And then distribution wise, the way we talk about this company is, yeah, we do home maintenance, but it's last mile infrastructure. And think about 20% off underwriting costs in the home. And that's why USAA is now going to be distributing us broadly, zero CAC. That's what these companies can't do. And it's a reflection of all those things working together. That's a business model. It's not just an app or, I talk about AI as a tool. It's a tool, we use it, but it in itself is not a business model.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Sure. That's all the time we have for questions. James, we do have a number of questions and comments in the chat box after this. If you could log on and answer those directly there, I think you'd find some interesting comments there as well. But thanks so much for the presentation.
Great. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Great. Next up, we have Jun Yi of Moorbot. Jun, if you can go ahead and launch your slides, we'll kick you off next.
Right. Yep. Thanks, Hal. Thanks for having me. Glad to take this opportunity to talk about our company. My name is Jun Yi. I'm the co-founder of Moorbot. I have an engineer background, specializing in micromachining and mixed signal processing. Ever since childhood, I've been fascinated about robots. Now I got a chance to build one, so very excited to be part of this venture. Moorbot is a robotic company. We're trying to build fast and intuitive robots with better human-robot interaction. Oops. So if you look at today's robotic industry, there's still a lot of challenges. Among them, we primarily focus on two issues. One is our fundamental belief that robot has to be fast. If you look at today's robots out there, there are only a couple cases people are excited about, right? Like the Boston Dynamic humanoid can do a backflip. The electric vehicle can run 100 miles per hour, autonomously. So it's somehow all related to being fast, but fast is a problem too. Right. So today's AI, so-called intelligence, is more about data science. It requires thousands and thousands of servers running on the cloud in parallel. But robot is more about edge computing. So how to achieve faster response, which require instant computing bandwidth and also power intensive. How to achieve that with a low-cost hardware, that's an industrial-wide challenge. Another issue we're focused on is actually there are a lot of research went into this. And prove that robot has to mimic human behavior a little bit better in order to get wider acceptance. We human basically make our decision based on two parts of our brain. One is more logical, the other is more instinctive, right? But today's robots don't do that. Today's robots are running on one main program, just like a little bit like a logic part of our brain, but there's no reflex, there's no instinct behavior in the robots. It's actually our belief that bringing reflex and instinct behavior into robotics can change the entire landscape of robotic business. So obviously, robots are going to be big, right? Elon Musk is saying the number of robots is going to exceed the number of humans, which is going to be true probably. But if you look at each industrial, revolution, there's always a paradigm shift. There's always a logic behind it. Just like when iPhone is launched, the logic behind that is a PC in the pocket. So whatever you do on a PC, now you can, carry it around. So that's powerful enough to drive a billions dollars business. So what's in there for robots? So we actually believe the true uniqueness of robots is probably first time in the human history we're building a electronics that actually has a little bit lifelike feature. So they can learn, they can adapt on their own, they can grow under pressure, which non-life form never do, right? So we think the true value is somewhere around there. So with that belief, my team is building modular robots, emphasize lifelike features like self-readiness, task-driven reconfiguration, reflex, instinct, emotions, things like that. And we're proposing a total different control system, which has clear partition of what we call automatic subsystem and analytic subsystem. So automatic part is more like a reflex instinct, and then analytic is more today's main program running. So we believe this can add true value to the entire robotic industry. So as a team, actually the first project we did is humanoids. We believe humanoids is going to be the future, and we want to be fast. So we built this fighting robots that can punch very fast. And then the first commercial product we launched is a little bit like a year ago. It's a wheeled mobile robot with a ROS operating system, and it's open source. So we did 1.3 million through crowdfunding, and to date, we shipped over 20,000 units so far. The good thing about it is we got a chance to engage directly with consumer. So we now understand what they want out of the robot products, what their acceptance level in today's marketplace. And we also shocked several, professional teams like, the security guys like Alarm.com, ADT, and they're very surprised, how many features we can deliver with as low as $60 cost robot. And imagine what we can do with $6,000 robots, right? So moving forward, we have our plan laying out. So in the near term, we are still going to focus on simpler form of robots, easily get accepted by today's marketplace, and that will generate revenue stream for us. And in parallel, we're going to be building more complex robots, humanoids. There's actually a chance out there. So there are thousands of researchers actually want to get access to humanoids for development purposes. There are not that many available out there. So what if we build one and shrink to 1/3 of size and make it, cheap enough for, for this open source community, and form a, enough researcher to work with us. And 2 years later, we're going to gather, probably, have all the software we need to face real applications. Like we can make robots, doing fries in a fast food restaurant, be a retail assistant in the retail chain, and their applications are endless. So. As for business model, so robots always have hardware element of it, but for our team, we actually focus on software more, focus on recurring revenue. And this is through cloud services, for example, through the pre-trained models or network, or robot as a service type of business arrangement. As for competitiveness, robots are hard enough product. So the complex vertical integration of hardware and software. And more importantly, we have to deliver high performance based on the low-cost hardware, and also scale up to millions and millions of units with the right reliability. Right? So that's by itself is a very high entry barrier business. But the true value for this team, we believe, is we're trying to use a different technology to offload the computing requirements, things like analog computing, fuzzy network, and to offload that, so make a, based on the same cost, we can deliver, even better performance or fast response. And that will be the true value of this team moving forward. As for the team, I have engineer background. I co-founded a company in San Diego called SimWave. We were actually the first to deliver USB 3 chip. That's today's Type-C port for mobile phone. So that's the single largest connectivity in consumer electronics. I'm not probably go through everyone because time. Richard is on the business side. That's our business partner. He actually helped build several very well-known US brands like Raku and August Lock. So he's on the business side, overseeing the entire operation for us. As for comparison, we actually launched our first Scott robot, positioned as a low-cost Astro. But Astro has so many problems, so they haven't even launched it yet. So Amazon ended up purchasing iRobot last year for $1 billion. But in the future, we want to compare ourselves more with those humanoid guys. So as for funding, so we're looking at for about 5 million, with the first closing about 1 million convertible. Right now about $250,000 committed. So that will give us to another level of business engagement and hopefully launch the second product. And that's it. Any questions?
June, thanks for that. Jason, you had the first question.
Thank June for the presentation. Pretty interesting stuff. I'm just trying to understand your focus here in terms of, one of your slides mentioned home entertainment, but it doesn't seem like you're as focused. Maybe it's maybe it's as you talk to potential customers, they dictate the use of it. But I'm just wondering, what is the big strategy here in terms of where you're going to go? And so I just wasn't quite clear on that, in the use case of this. What is the need here? Also, like, what are you solving here? What's the problem?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So the focus we have are trying to improve the human robot interaction, and that's a fundamental issue for a lot of robot products out there, right? So one of the thing can improve is the entertainment robots, right? So that's highly interactive with user. But that same technology can be used in other forms of robots. So there's a piece of a core technology or core architecture that we hope can deliver a fast response robots and can do a lot of different things. But the real application is another layer. So the application layer is it's on top of the technology we're trying to build. The focus, as I mentioned, in the near term, we're still going to focus on more similar or simpler robot form, which can be easily accepted by today's marketplace. And then, give us enough runway to develop more complex robots, engage enterprise and commercial applications. Yeah. So.
Thanks.
Okay.
And
All right,
Jake,
thanks.
your question?
Yes. Okay. So when we think about the near-term future of the company, I want you to think about like the lifetime of a customer, right? Over the lifetime of the customer, do you plan on generating more revenue via software sales or the hardware that you've, like the actual robot itself?
Yes, I mentioned, so our focus is definitely more software-based, more recurring revenue-based. For example, right now we have a little bit of cloud service income, and we definitely see there's a chance to say sell different we call pre-trained network. So there are a lot of people are trying to meet their own applications, right? There are some people wanted to identify raccoons in their backyard. Some people wanted to identify something else, right? So we can pre-train those scenes and make it a software available. You can pay 50 cents and add one scene to recognize whatever things you wanted to recognize. So that could become a very software-driven business moving forward.
So could that be something like, if you think of like I don't know, Shopify, where these other people can build these apps for Shopify owners? Is it kind of like that, or internally you would build those apps?
The original goal for us is definitely that way. So we actually trying to do a platform. That's why we're adding this ROS operating system on it. This is the world's smallest ROS robots right now. And because of that, there's a ROS middleware, people can actually jump in to develop on their own. So that was the goal. And also the humanoid we're trying to build is also that way too. So we wanted to gather more developers on our platform, and we can develop things all together and share profit.
So, okay, so then follow-up question to my first question. So what if software, right? If that's where we want to be the highest revenue generating source,
right,
what has that conversion rate been like from the already shipped 20,000 units? Have you been able to see a legitimate uplift in software sales? Like roughly speaking, what does that look like?
right. So right now, the software income for us primarily is through the cloud service. So we charge about $3.99 for software service, and we got right now about a couple of thousand users actually trying to pay this thing. So we have a little bit. It's not as high as our hardware yet, but again, that's the goal we have to drive more software sales, and this is why we are trying to raise funding. So with funding, we can lower the hardware price, and then expand more rapidly and try to get more software income through the existing customer.
Okay. And then, sorry, last question, I'll give it back to Jason if he has any more. You've generated somewhere around $3 to $4 million top line revenue?
Yeah, to 2 point something. Yes. Yeah, close to 3 now.
Was your price point a little bit lower beforehand?
In the Kickstarter crowdfunding, the hardware was a little bit lower than the current retail price. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, cool. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
Great. Jason, you have another question?
So, I mean, what's a good strategic investor, or sorry, strategic partner for you? I mean, are there other manufacturers or other, I'm just curious, what's a good partner for you for something to allow you to scale this?
Right. I think the ideal partner will be more on the application side. Robot is still in the early stage. There is a process that the market has to be educated for a certain amount of time. So if somebody gave me a real humanoid for just $1,000, I probably wouldn't put it in my house right now, right? So there is a process that. So we will be more thrilled to have more partner on the application sides, like the fast food restaurant, for example, or retail chain. Somebody that actually can run, actually try to test robots in this different applications. That would be ideal for us. Yeah. So.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Jay, you have a second question?
My other question was actually what Jason's first question was. So all my questions have been answered. Thanks, June.
Thanks, Jake.
Well, my question, June, in the last minute we have here is, can you tell us more about the technology behind here and what's going on with the neural nets and the fuzzy logic and so forth? What is the depth of that? Okay.
So the fundamental thinking that we have is that robot has to be fast, as I mentioned, but that will require instant computing power. But not all the computing has to be accurate. For example, our reflex or our instinct are not accurate, right? We humans make mistakes all the time, right? But so with that, we probably can offload a big portion of the computing to a different technology, to a non-digital technology, or a fuzzy network. So different technology. So that will actually, for example, if we're investing our significant time into analog computing. Analog computing actually is about 1,000 times faster than digital, and it's only 1% power. It may not be as accurate as digital. It may not be very easily replica or copied as compared to digital, but it has some benefit. So we think probably it makes really sense to have analog computing together with digital computing, and use analog computing as a very low power, almost like an instinct reflex type of a behavior. If we can mix that, then we have a very different robots out there, and that will change the entire industry.
Great. And one question from the audience, and this will be our last one, is, are you looking to go into the restaurant space at all?
Yes, we actually love to have a robot can do fries. That can be done actually. It's today's technology. So we definitely wanted to engage restaurants and also retail chains. Those are our main target. That's right. Yeah.
Great. Well, that brings us to the end of our presentations. I want to thank everybody for joining today. Our two panelists, Jason Jacobsohn and Jay Casas, thanks for joining us, and appreciate your sharing your feedback to the group as well. I want to thank those in the audience for good questions. I think I see James got around and covered, I think, most of them. We'll make introductions afterwards based on the poll. And if there's anybody else you want to meet, just let us know. We'll be glad to connect you with those in the group today. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up for the day, and looking forward to seeing you guys next time. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.